It's the 31st of May, 2018. This single tweet is about to start one of the most influential brands of the modern era. How to get rich without getting lucky. A 40-tweet thread that would go on to shift the way millions of entrepreneurs think about money, leverage, and getting rich. And in the process, one man gained millions of devout followers, a best-selling book to his name, and dozens of invites to the world's most listened to podcasts. The man behind it, Naval Ravikant, the man who was able to build a billion-dollar brand off the back of one single tweet. But how did he captivate the minds of so many, infecting them with his philosophy? He used a system, and I'm going to explain how he turned a philosophy into a network effect. The single reason why many come very close to building an influential and profitable brand but fall short, and how to engineer your brand like Naval has. So by the end of this video, you'll know how to grow an audience, build influence that compounds to generate deal flow,
now run about 1,200 deals,
a queue of clients, and be the go-to name in your industry, just like Naval has.
Entrepreneur, investor, philosopher.
I must have been 17 when I first discovered Naval. Like many, it was this video. It caught my attention. I don't know why, maybe it was a title, maybe the curiosity of the promise. But all I know is those 3.5 hours changed the way I thought about everything. I'd never heard anyone talk about wealth, leverage, freedom so simply, systematically, and almost spiritually in a way. A few years later, I'd go on to dedicate myself to helping founders grow their businesses through branding, and Naval's way of thinking has shaped the way I build strategies today. Not by coming up with a new shiny method, but by focusing on the 3 principles that I'm about to break down. Over the past few weeks, I've spent hours going through Naval's podcasts, his tweets, old interviews, transcripts, random posts, fan accounts, and there's something weird about Naval. He barely posts. A couple videos a year, tweets here and there. He gets hundreds of podcast requests, but only picks a couple to make an appearance on.
After the Tim Ferriss podcast, like every podcast in the world reached out.
He doesn't sell anything, nothing. Not even his best-selling book is his. Yet his content is everywhere you look. His tweets reposted, talked about, broken down. His podcasts listened to, quoted. Videos of him get millions of views. And he has devout followers who call themselves students of Navalism. And from the back of all this influence, Naval's company, AngelList, a private equity firm, is valued over $4 billion, with founders queuing up to give away parts of their company just to be associated with Naval. How can someone who writes with such clarity have a brand strategy that seems so unstructured, seems almost lucky?
Productise yourself.
Most treat content like the product. They think more content equals more reach, and more reach equals growing my brand. So they post daily, or as much as they can. They jump on every trend imaginable, and guess what? They still struggle for attention. You can build your personal brand as a systemized, well-oiled machine, but if you follow that blindly, you don't build a brand. You just have content for the sake of having content, instead of an asset to future-proof your business. Naval never focused on content. He focused on the asset, himself, because content is not the product. It's never been. This is where most brands get it wrong, and the first thing we start with clients. It's the other way around. Content is merely the vehicle, and you are the product. Your ideas, your voice, your way of seeing the world, your specific knowledge, and your uniqueness. Those are the elements behind a brand that generates demand and lasts. This is the whole core of Naval's brand, a concept that he calls Productise Yourself. Productise and yourself. Yourself has uniqueness. Productise has leverage.
Yourself has accountability. Productise has specific knowledge. Yourself also has specific knowledge in there. So all of these pieces, you can combine them into these 2 words.
Most will have a content system, sitting down to record, sending everything off to an editor, and getting them to post. Investing time and money, but not getting the results that they really want. Why? Because they're simply lacking the elements to productize yourself. What's your specific knowledge? What's your uniqueness? Let's start with specific knowledge. These are concepts that are yours. Naval owns the concept of productize yourself and the 3 forms of leverage. This is knowledge, frameworks, concepts, and value that he's created, he shared, and that he mentions and brings up time and time again. His uniqueness, well, 1, he limits his in-person podcast appearances, becoming a rare commodity, giving every word he says more weight, so you pay just that more attention.
Every podcast in the world reached out. I go for the scarcity bit.
2, his profile picture, a hand-drawn sketch of a human face, with basic construction lines. By design, every post, you know it's his because of its uniqueness. His profile stands out in a sea of content. And 3, he doesn't follow anyone because he is followed. not the follower. His appearance of a modern day prophet is certainly not luck. Because if Naval had a generic profile picture, didn't break down concepts like no one else did before, jumped on every podcast he could go on, would anyone even care? A product with too much supply loses value. He wouldn't have millions of followers, millions in deal flow, and a cult-like following. If your specific knowledge and your uniqueness is packaged right, it becomes a product that people buy into. I like to picture it as building brand IP, a brand which is really and truly yours, something that people can only associate with you. Let's look at more examples here. Dan Coe, wildly popular with millions of followers on every single platform. His specific knowledge? Well, he owns the term one-person business and digital renaissance. These are his terms that he's created that you can search up and he'll come up. For his uniqueness, his black and white branding, his signature raw videos, and his short form animations. Daniel Dallin, who we've worked with, who reignited vlogs in the online business space. We helped him find his specific knowledge and adopted his term building in public. His uniqueness were his signature POV thumbnails and his orange profile picture. I see this with some of the business owners who want to work with me. They think that productize yourself means building a content machine and trying to attract as much traffic as possible, and money and clients will flow on autopilot. But productize yourself doesn't mean having attention, having distribution. It means owning attention and owning distribution. People don't follow you because you're everywhere. People follow you because every word you say carries weight, turning yourself into a scalable product. If you package your specific knowledge and your uniqueness, just like Naval did, your brand becomes a magnet. People follow not because they're told to, but because they feel like they discovered you. That's what we help founders build. And that's why I started my one-on-one for founders who want a future-proof asset to attract deal flow and build a brand that stands out and lasts. As Naval said, the DNA of the brand is the DNA of its founder. We craft your brand strategy from the ground up, making it impossible to ignore. And it's a pretty selective offer. But we're also actually opening up a waitlist for our community. Ideal if you don't need full support, but you still want to grow your business through your brand. So if you're interested in the one-on-one, book a call below in the description. And to join the community waitlist, go ahead and go on my Instagram and DM me the word waitlist. Now, while some people try to win the game of influence with artificial reach, affiliates, and clip farms, Naval attracts real loyalty. Behind every repost, there isn't a clipper, an affiliate who's trying to game the algorithm and make quick cash. They're actually minds that have been forever changed by Naval's philosophy. That's how Naval became one of the strongest brands on the internet. His inbox full of podcast invites and investment opportunities. So now that you've prioritized yourself, that's only part of the game. How do you scale?
Am I productizing it? Am I scaling it with labor or with media?
A term I've coined, which is audience-based distribution, the most powerful and authentic way to scale your brand. Audience-based distribution means designing and spreading content specifically with your audience in mind and not for the algorithm. Instead of chasing trends, you create content your existing followers want to share, they want to engage with, and repurpose, turning them and leveraging them into your distribution engine. Naval says that media and labor are some of the highest forms of leverage.
Am I productizing it? Am I scaling it with labor or with media?
For example, this video here is a form of media leverage. I'll do the work once, and years from now, I could still be getting results, getting views on this video. Labor is leveraging others to do the work for you so you can increase your level of output. Now, what if you combine the two to scale your brand? Creating content and having your audience distribute it. Audience-based distribution works best in these 3 steps, which is 1, identity, 2, adoption, and 3, incentive. Naval gave his audience a clear narrative, a clear identity that they can relate to and embody. Being an entrepreneur, also thinking like a philosopher.
Entrepreneur, investor, philosopher, mentor.
Being a modern day stoic, an intellectual athlete. His audience adopted his terminology of leverage and productize yourself. And finally, a community that feels like insiders. They get incentivized to adopt and to share his message because they feel part of the community, Navalism. When we worked with Daniel, we implemented audience-based distribution as a means to scale his brand. 1, we gave his audience a clear identity. Building a public was a term that we came up with and something that they could embody. 2, we made his audience adopt the POV signature, a content format that would make them feel like insiders in the community. 3, we shifted distribution from Daniel pushing out content to his audience wanting to be part of growing his brand by building in public with the POV branding. By the way, this is the level of strategy you can expect from our one-on-one, not some cookie cutter copy-paste systems. But the results, they speak for themselves. Your brand becomes your biggest asset. I saw it firsthand working with Daniel. The power of building a brand. Having audience ready to buy, waiting for you to release something. Having billion-dollar brands messaging you, reaching out, being able to bring hundreds of people together in person, having the best talent in the world work for you. It's about becoming irreplaceable in a world where, quite frankly, AI can build a better product than you. But one thing it can never replace is you, your brand. And when done right, you're not just building a following, you're turning identity into equity. At the end of the day, Naval's investors, clients, customers, they're not buying your product, they're buying into you. And right in front of your feed, Naval is mastering the game of branding, becoming irreplaceable. And even me with a very small 1K following, seeing my company take off because of my brand. Huge figures contacting me wanting to work with me. I want to leave you with one main takeaway, and that's productizing yourself. Building a brand is not nice to have, it's literally survival. And I've heard this before, but building a brand is not a method, it's not hyped, it's not a trend. Because the business owners that you look up to, the ones that have impact, influence, and winning the game, destroying the competition, they all have brands, and you're in direct competition with them. We've explored Naval's mystery, the real meaning behind Productise Yourself, and how you can turn uniqueness into your brand IP. If you want me and my co-founder to help you grow your business through your brand, check out the description, and make sure you go ahead and follow my Instagram to be the very first to know next time I upload a video. Thank you for watching.